All right, welcome to the Fantasy Football MBAs. That stands for matchups, breakdowns, and analysis. And we are helping you graduate to fantasy football champion. We are in week number 6 now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We are on week number 6. And it's your boy Steve here, and I am joined by
Eric J, week 6, baby.
all right. T. Campbell, he couldn't make it out today, but he will be in part 2 of our week 6 breakdown. So this is part 1. We're gonna handle the first half of the week 6 games, and then in part 2, we will go through the second half, including the Monday Night Football game. So let's go ahead and get started, man. Let's get started on these games, man. I'll let you start off, man.
So, first game we got Houston and Tennessee. Um,
Yeah.
and I think, just starting out with Tennessee, so watching the game last night, man, um, I think, for the foreseeable future, like, I mean, you could roll with Tannehill, AJ Brown, Johnu was looking good out there. And then, even though Derrick Henry only had like 57 rushing yards, I mean, he's still going to get the ball in the end zone. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
you can't really go wrong with the Tennessee Titans. And their defense, I mean, if you need a defense, I have their defense in one of my leagues. I mean, they're one of the teams to have this year for
Yeah.
fantasy. So,
And the Bills are not, apparently.
yeah, I would say I was, I know we'll get to them, later somewhere down the line. I was a little disappointed in them last night, but that's for another time.
Right, right.
Just going to the other side of the ball, I think this is where it's kind of interesting this week. Um, for Deshaun, I think if you have him, you got to play him this week. But I'm a little worried about this one. I was just kind of looking through his stats, and I realized through these first 5 weeks, he's thrown 5 interceptions. Um, and Tennessee, I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he threw another one. I don't think he'll throw two like Josh Allen did,
Right.
but I could really see him throwing a pick and, maybe if he runs, even fumbling the ball because Tennessee is tough.
Yeah.
Definitely got a good defense, but I still think you got to play him.
Hmm.
The one person who I do like this week is I still like David Johnson
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
this week. I was looking, and Tennessee actually allows over 5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. So I think he still has a good shot. The problem is if the game gets away from Houston too early,
True.
that is kind of what I'm scared of. But I still think you got to play him.
Yeah, for sure.
I was watching the game last night, and TJ Yeldon, who I didn't even know this guy was still
Still playing.
out there, he was averaging like 5 or 6 yards a carry. So they can be had, I think, if you run the ball on them. It's just if the game gets away from your team and you got to start throwing the ball, I don't really like your chances. As far as Brandon Cooks this week, I think you can maybe play him, but he to me is just a flex this week. I saw Stephon Diggs, he did decent last night. He had the 10 catches,
Yeah.
but I think you got to temper your expectations. I think Stephon Diggs is better at this point in his career than Brandon Cooks is. Um,
What about my man Will Fuller, man?
I
Not
don't know.
mention them.
I just, man, after what I saw last night, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on, number 2 and 3 receivers against a Tennessee defense.
I gotta be honest with you. I think Will Fuller's the number one receiver. I think he's the number one receiver, and I like him. I think he can put up Stephon Diggs like numbers, and when I say that, I mean the game that Stephon Diggs had against the Titans. I
Yeah.
could see Will Fuller putting up similar numbers to that. Brandon Cooks, I don't know what to think of Brandon Cooks. I don't know,
Yeah.
So I'm if you're in a pinch and he's better than a lot of other options, but I'm not gonna start him thinking that I'm gonna get the same results that we got last week from him. So yeah, man. And speaking of respect, You gotta respect
Definitely.
Tannehill, man. Everybody is still judging him by his past, and it's time
Yeah.
to move on, man. Like he's legit. I actually saw some statistics, and since he has started with Tennessee, mid last year, he's actually the number 3 fantasy football quarterback.
Man,
Number
I
3.
I would if
Still,
you would
he's still in the free agent pool.
even after giving me the stats, I still don't believe it because it's like, yeah, like
I know.
I think like you said, it's kind of also how I felt like about David Carr, coming into this year, like
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about their past performances, but he's far exceeded my expectations this year. So
for
I
sure.
think, like you said, he's solid. And I'll tell you the thing I was really mad, he is actually my backup to Josh Allen in a league that I had where I lost, I think, by 5 points. So
Ooh, man, don't get me started on last week, man. Don't
yeah.
get me started on that one. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, now rolling into the next game, we got Cincinnati versus Indianapolis. And I first wanted to start out, we've been talking about him the last few weeks. T.Y. Hilton, um, just another average game. I mean, he had 70 receiving yards, but I think the day might have finally come where he
You
just
know,
seems like just another guy right now.
yeah, and you know what I think it is, man. I hate to interrupt you, man, but
Oh no, go for it.
I think Philip Rivers is done.
Yes.
He's done. It's a wrap, man.
Yes.
Yeah, but go on, man. I just had to put that out there, man.
Just to kind of build on your point, and I'm glad you brought up Philip Rivers because I can't, I think because of him, like it's affecting the rest of the offense.
Hmm.
I would still feel comfortable playing Jonathan Taylor in this game.
Yeah,
One
me
of the
too.
things I noticed, Cincinnati also kind of like Tennessee, they allow over 5 yards per carry to running backs, and Taylor's averaging over 4, and I think he's just starting to hit his stride.
I agree.
So I like him, but I mean, like you said, the way Philip Rivers is playing, I can't really trust him. And then I actually looked up some stats about Cincinnati's defense. They've actually gotten a little bit better in terms of their pass coverage. They're only allowing, I guess, about a 60% completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks. And the way Philip Rivers is looking right now, I
Yeah,
think it's going to be tough. I was looking and I just really don't feel that confident in him anymore.
I agree, man.
I think he's gonna have those games once in a while where he'll get the 3 touchdowns and maybe one pick and he'll put up over 300. But I think it's the beginning of the end for him.
I think if he does that, like one of those touchdowns will be to Jonathan Taylor or Naeem Hines, and then they run for like 60 of those yards, man.
Yeah.
So
It's just sad because I can't trust any of their receivers
I
anymore
can't.
because
No,
of Philip Rivers.
me neither. And then now, even with the tight ends, they're splitting it up. So you can't even trust Mo Alley Cox. You can't trust Jack Doyle. Trey
Yeah,
Burton is in the picture now. So like,
yeah.
yeah,
I had to play Mo Alley last week and he completely failed me. So
zero goose egg.
yes, so I'm done with him. He's
Yeah,
another one
I'm
I'm
done.
gonna
Yeah, he's gone. This is you only get
throw in
one
the
chance.
garbage. And I guess going on to the other team, the Cincinnati this week, I think this week you can still roll with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. But the one thing is, Indy's defense is actually pretty good
Yeah, it is.
statistically. Even though, they got 32 points dropped on them last week, I was really looking at it, and it wasn't their defense's fault.
Mm,
I'm pretty sure Philip Rivers threw a pick six last week. And then he also had a terrible penalty that gave them a safety.
mm,
So they were not only did they give up points on that, they were put in bad field position a lot.
yeah,
Um, but I would not let that, deter you. If you have, Indy's defense, and if you have players on Cincinnati, it's something to look out for because Indy's defense has been pretty tough, both against the run and the pass. So
yeah.
I like Higgins and Boyd. Mixon, I'm a little, I'm a little hesitant on him this week because
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I just think he's not going to be as successful, as he was in his last few games. So
I tell you, man, I actually have Mixon in 2 leagues, and it scares me every time I start him. I do not feel confident at all, man. I'm gonna start him again, and that's only because he gets the ball so many times that you're just like, maybe something is gonna happen. I think about the game between the Eagles and the Steelers last week. The Steelers' incredible run defense, but Miles Sanders was able to break one off because he's just getting those opportunities, and you just kind of hope the same thing happens to Mixon, but you don't really feel good about it.
And one thing I will agree with you on, like Joe Burrow started to look like a rookie a little bit in his last game. So I think when that happens, you got to go back to the running back and kind of, lean on him a little bit
Good point.
more.
Good point.
No, maybe I could change my mind on that, just given, what's going on with their team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that NDD is tough. So I'm a little hesitant, if you're playing, some Cincinnati players. You just got to keep an eye on that one.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep.
Um, And going to the next game, we got Atlanta and Minnesota. And I'll let you definitely get in some thoughts
4-6.
on the Falcons. I'll tell you, so in one of my leagues, I've just been killed by injuries at receiver. I have a league where I have um, Mike Thomas and Godwin. They were, down last week. And I've just, haven't like, Eckler's out. So I've been like really looking for production all over the place. And it actually got to the point last week where I had to play Zacchaeus
Yeah.
on the Falcons because I just like it's a huge league where we have a lot of roster spots and
Sure.
it literally came down to that and it did not work out at all.
Not at all, man. Matt Ryan, totally different player when Julio is not on the field, man. He
Absolutely.
flash. So if Julio doesn't make it, I just need Julio to at least be a decoy or something, man. Because if he's
Yeah.
not on the field, I'm not starting anybody other than Calvin Ridley and Todd Gurley. Surprisingly enough, yeah.
I will tell you, Todd Gurley has looked a lot better than I thought he was going to look. With everything that's gone on with his injuries, I thought he was one of those people like, he was, an all world player, for a few years. And then, but he looks like he's got some life left in him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will tell you, Minnesota is one of those teams. They can be had, in terms of that. I mean, they just, they actually played Seattle pretty tough last week, but they just kind of lack, that ability to close a game, and they could definitely be scored on. So
Sure.
I feel real good about Gurley this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, if it ain't Gurley or Calvin Ridley, not touching them. Um, and then going on to the other side of the ball, I don't say this very often, but I would play Kirk Cousins this week. Um,
Me too.
I think, you can roll with Thielen. And I think Justin Jefferson will bounce back. He didn't play well last week. He only had 3 catches. And I don't think that's something that's going to continue for the rest of the season. And for their running game, I would just say whoever is the healthier guy, just go with him because
Yep.
they don't seem to miss a beat with Madison. And I'll tell you what, he looks good, man, when he plays.
Madison does look good.
If you got him or Cook, I would feel really good about that. They're a much better running team than they are throwing the ball. And, when they run well, it helps Kirk Cousins. So, you know, that's really, my feeling on the Vikings. Any thoughts on them?
I lucked out in one of my leagues. They actually had opened up another slot because of just all the COVID craziness and
Gotcha.
whatnot. And I didn't really have nobody to pick up, so I just picked up Alexander Madison just like for the hell.
Man.
And I was like, yeah, and it's perfect because I have Josh Jacobs who's on a bye this
Mhm.
week, and I was like, well, there we go, we good. So I was happy about that. I just wanted to put that out there, but I agree with what you're saying. Yeah,
Nah, for sure. I think he's gonna fill in nice because Dalvin Cook, of course, he's had a history of injuries. And even if he's healthy, I think you play them both, you're not going to, I think they're, a good pair, to have in the backfield together, for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And then next game, we got Denver and New England, which I'll tell you for New England, I mean, with everything up in the air with Cam Newton, I don't really know what it's going to look like for them.
It looks like he is. It all signs are pointing towards him playing.
So if he plays, I think you can definitely feel good about. I would say Damian Harris. Even though there's always in the back of my mind, Rex Burkhead is always lurking to vulture one of your touchdowns. But I actually think Damian Harris is a player to watch going forward, especially if Cam Newton is in the game and playing. Um, I just still, the rest of their team. I know we talked about it last week. I just don't think Edelman is that guy anymore.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm also worried about as far as, the Patriots throwing the ball, one thing I realized they've allowed like the sixth most sacks in the league. And Denver, even though they have been just average on defense, their pass rush is still pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, New England is definitely not the Jets who they played in the last game, but they can still put some heat on you. So they're the passing prospects this week for New England. I'm not too high on it.
Right.
And then just going to the other side of the ball in Denver, I think one of the things to look at, I just found this out today. I didn't know that Melvin Gordon had gotten arrested.
Yeah, the DUI thing. Yeah.
And all the things I was reading today are pointing to him being suspended, at least maybe for like a game or two.
Right.
So I'm desperate in one of my leagues, and I'm gonna have to play Philip Lindsay.
Yep. He's back just in time. So I'm
Yeah,
not
so
mad at that either.
I'm gonna have to play him. And then another person who I actually picked up 2 weeks ago, same league, desperate, hurting at wide receiver. I'm gonna be forced to play Tim Patrick this week.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
And the reason I'm gonna play him, and I feel okay about it, their other receiver, KJ Hamler, did not practice today. He's been like really banged up.
Mhm.
And then Noah Fant is still a little gimpy.
Yep.
So I think Tim Patrick, I watched him play. He looks the part.
Yeah.
We just got to see if there's some consistency. And I'll be honest, in this league, I am desperate. So I'm having to resort to people like this, like now, and just with the way fantasy has gone this year with some key injuries,
Yep.
he's somebody I'm going to keep my eye on for the rest of the year and who I'm actually going to start in one of my leagues this week.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad because you expect the coverage to be focused on Jerry Judy. So
Absolutely.
that should open things up for Tim Patrick. So I'm with you on that one, man. I agree with and Philip Lindsay. I've seen a couple of leagues where Philip Lindsay is out there still in the free agent pool. I would
Yeah,
make him a priority to pick him up, and I would start him.
definitely. I think the only reason I held on to him was we talked about it, earlier when we did one of our earlier episodes. Like Melvin Gordon, I mean, even though this is not like it, he just, I don't know. There's just something about him where I
Mel-
don't know.
Melvin Gordon is not an efficient runner at all. Like he gets opportunity. He gets a lot of opportunity, and he's actually a player who gets the opportunity, who actually makes good on it. Joe Mixon doesn't always make good on it, and some of these other guys don't. But if you give Gordon 20 plus touches, it seems like you'll be good. You know what I mean? But he needs all of those touches. So, yeah, man.
No, I'm definitely looking at this game only for those, those few players who I'm going to really have to lean heavy on in this one league. And for people that still need players out there, might be worth a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then moving on to the next game, I got the Washington football team and the New York Giants. I'm just going to start by saying this division is awful.
Oof,
I
man.
mean, but I think this is actually a week where these two teams might put up some stats because they're both, I mean, They're just really not that good. I still like Antonio Gibson. He's getting targets in the passing game. He's actually one of the players who I have in one of my leagues that I've been like proud that I actually went out there and picked him up.
Yeah.
I think, depending what happens with their quarterback situation going forward, I still think he's going to produce. He is a safety valve. Um, I didn't like the fact that McKissick was coming in there and catching and taking away some of those passes, but
Mhm.
I still think Antonio Gibson is that guy. And, against this Giants team, I think he's going to get opportunities. Um, I think the biggest disappointment for me, and another reason I lost in the league where I played Josh Allen, Terry McLaurin, he finally let me down this week. And I could have played LaVisca Chenault in there instead of him. And I went with McLaurin because he's the starter. And I figured, but
Yes.
I don't know, like them throwing the ball downfield now is really making me nervous for
I
McLaurin.
agree. Say what you want about Dwayne Haskins. He at least got the ball to Terry.
Push the ball down the field. I don't get it. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
pissed. And you know me how I feel about Ohio State players, but
Yeah.
I just feel like, we need like the Washington football team needs somebody who will push the ball down the field. And that makes McLaurin, worth drafting. But in this new format, I really got to keep an eye on it because I just don't know how effective he's going to be going forward.
I feel you.
Hopefully, their quarterbacks can pick it up. And on the other side of the ball, one person who I have picked up in both leagues, and this is as a result, I have Eckler in the two leagues that I play, and with him being out, I had to pick up Devontae Freeman, who actually showed a little life
Yeah. Yeah.
against the Cowboys. So I'm definitely playing him this week. I have Jacobs out on a bye, and I'm hurting in that one league, at running back, with Eckler being out, Jacobs on a bye. I only have Miles Gaskin, so I gotta throw in Devontae Freeman as my RB2 this week in one of my leagues. So I'm hoping that he does well this week. Um, and then the only other thing I would say about this game, I like the way Slayton's been looking,
Mhm.
but he's got some kind of foot injury and they're not saying how serious it is. So
Yep.
it's like, man, I'll tell you, receivers this year, it's like
It's
one
rough,
week,
man.
one week they're here, the next week they got a foot or a hamstring. So
Man.
I mean, it's tough sledding this year for injuries.
Yeah, no, no, I agree with you, and I'm not mad at the Devontae Freeman start either. What I am mad about is I went against a dude last week. He had Freeman, he had Preston Williams, and Emmanuel Sanders all starting, and I was like, "Yo, I got this. This is gonna be easy."
Yeah.
And I ended up losing. They all had good games, man, and I ended up losing. So it's crazy. It's crazy how that happens in fantasy, but I'm not mad at Devontae Freeman.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But let's move on. Speaking of receivers, I want to talk about a receiver in this game here. And we have the Eagles going against the Baltimore Ravens.
Gotcha.
Travis Fulgham. I gotta ride the train, man. Like I know Baltimore is a tough matchup, but he went up against the Steelers, went up against the 49ers. And, those are two teams that can give up some points to wide receivers. But, Baltimore can be had too. They're not perfect. And he's really all they got. I don't trust Alshon Jeffrey. If he comes back, I don't know. Is Deshaun Jackson coming back? I don't know. Ertz has been trash
Man,
this year.
I know a lot of people that they pick him like the way people
Yeah.
pick would pick up like a Kelsey. He's one of those guys you expect to get value for
Yeah,
position. It just has not panned out this year.
not at all, man. And I'm still not with it, until I see it. And I got to see it in multiple games for Ertz. So I think Fulgham is really all they got. So, he had 10 receptions in the last game. So he's definitely being heavily targeted. So I think he's a go. Miles Sanders, he has proven that to me. You got to start him every week. You probably are going to anyway because of where you drafted him. But if he could put up the game that he put up against the Steelers, that means that you should feel confident with him against anybody, including the Baltimore Ravens. So on the Ravens side, man, other than the usual suspects, I could see Hollywood Brown having a decent game. I still don't trust the running backs at all. I'm not starting any of them. I wish you hate to wish that someone gets injured, but I at least wish that we get some kind of clarity. Maybe not get injured,
Exactly.
but maybe get traded. Maybe
Somebody take over. Yeah.
yeah, just make a decision. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna fade those guys in that game too. So you got any thoughts on this game?
My real just is still Carson Wentz. I've just man,
You
I
still
don't
think he's a bum? I think he's doing good for what he's got, man.
yeah, you know what? I looked at his production last week and I don't it's just, it's not what I expected from him. But
Correct.
like you said, I think he's done. I think I was maybe a little critical of him because, he is working with a ragtag group, so to speak, and and with the Ertz just I don't know, kind of falling off the face of the earth. Um, I just wish if they could just find some way to, I don't know, maybe get a little bit healthier
Yeah,
or get the tight end going. I think it would open up some things for them. But I'm definitely, I like Fulgham. I'm keeping my eye out for him in leagues because there's some leagues where I'm really hurting that receiver. So
yeah,
I definitely agree with you on that. And I definitely would take a chance on him if you could get him.
yeah, for sure, man. And on the note of Carson Wentz, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say because I've seen he's been dropped in a lot of leagues. I would not be surprised if he goes on a run towards the end of the season. And what I'm relying on that is players getting healthy. If he can get Dallas Goddard back, and he can get at least one of those receivers back, preferably two, then you got a whole different ball. And that division, they're going to be fighting towards all the way to the end. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he would be a sneaky pickup in the next couple of weeks or so. Not now, but once he clears out all of those tough games and a bye week and all that, I could see him being a sneaky backup quarterback. So, yeah, that's all I got on that game. And our last game for this episode, we have the Browns against the Steelers. So on the Browns side, I'm gonna roll with Odell Beckham because somebody on the Steelers secondary is really dropping the ball, man. And there is an opening somewhere, and they seem to be exploitable on like one side of of the passing defense. And I think Odell will be able to deliver this week. Kareem Hunt obviously is a start with or without Nick Chubb, but especially without Nick Chubb playing. Dearness, what's his name? Dearness Johnson. I still don't know about him yet. One thing I noticed in the first post Chubb game is that the majority of his carries were towards the end of the game when they had things wrapped up. So what that's telling me is that they trust Kareem Hunt to pretty much carry the load. And if there's a case where they're up, which I don't think against the Steelers, and in control like that, then that's when they would use Dearness Johnson. And that sucks for me because I picked him up a week ago, and guess who I dropped to pick him up? Just
Oh
take
no,
a guess.
I
He's
think
playing in this game.
was it was Claypool, wasn't it?
Chase Claypool.
Man,
I've been holding on to Chase Claypool. I actually even drafted him in a league, and I've been holding on to him this whole time. And I was like, you know what? I don't think he's really gonna do much in this Philadelphia game. I think I could sneak, drop him, pick up somebody, and then pick him back up, and nobody would notice. And of course, he decides to have the Al Bundy game, the 4 touchdowns in one
He
game.
went off.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy. That was crazy, man. So I
I
gotta
don't.
go with him again, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself beat yourself because like who would have thought like he would
Yeah.
have
If
like
you
yo
had
that's
he was on your bench.
that's like some like Madden stuff right
It was
there.
unbelievable. I was just sitting there like I dropped him in 3 leagues.
Man,
So and I won't get him back in any of
yeah,
those 3 leagues. I'm pretty confident that I won't because I'm always making waiver moves and I'm always at the bottom of the waiver wire. So um, tough sledding for me. Um, James Conner's always a start for me. Like I said, I like Chase Claypool, and if Deontay Johnson comes back, I don't know because he keeps getting hurt in his games. So I would have, unless I'm, hurting, I would have to sit him this week. And Juju,
and I wanted to ask you about this because a lot of leagues, people struggling, wide receivers, tight ends. How do you feel about Juju and Eric Ebron going forward?
well, it's funny. I actually kind of like Eric Ebron in this game. And I still his production is going to be inconsistent, just like many other tight ends. But I like him better than some other tight ends. You know what I mean? Like right now, I don't know what to think of Hayden Hurst. Like he's been awful, and the only reason why to keep him is just that you're just hoping that you just have that hope. You're just like he's talented, so what's going on? But as long as Julio's out, I don't know about Hurst, but I would prefer Ebron to him, and I would prefer Ebron to any of the Colts tight ends or Minnesota or so. If you're looking, he's there in the free agent pool. I'd pick him up. You know,
Yeah.
I'd rather have Jimmy Graham than him though.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I was like Ebron, he was one of those people like he had that one year where he was like he was looking unstoppable. And
Unstoppable.
then he had those years where he like really frustrated you. I think being in Pittsburgh is good because I think their team is gonna do really well. So
Right.
I think it's just gonna naturally, kind of I mean, I think if he can get you 4 or 5 catches for
Yeah.
in between 45 to 60 yards a game,
And
you
maybe
know,
bring a touchdown. Yeah.
and you get, lucky here and there, he gets in the end zone, I think you got to keep an eye on him for
Yeah.
sure.
I feel like he at least has a floor. Like some of these
Absolutely.
tight ends that they could get you zero. Like I feel like he could at
Yeah.
least get you 5 points.
Just like Mo Alley got me last week.
Yeah, zero. Hayden Hurst got me half a point. He got one catch for 9 yards.
Uh,
So, like man. But yeah, Juju, I still don't know about Juju, man. One thing I do know is that he will not be a Pittsburgh Steeler next year. I think Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson is getting a lot of the targets.
yeah.
So I feel like he's gonna be the odd man out there.
I'll tell you, as much as I, as a Raider fan, as much as I hate Antonio Brown, like Antonio Brown might have been right about Juju when he was,
He might
kind
have been right, man. He might have been right. I thought he was
of,
wrong. I thought Juju was legit, but
yeah. He looks like just another guy right now.
yeah, yeah. I think he'll fit in somewhere else as a
Yeah,
number 2 wide receiver.
definitely.
Maybe he could go to like the Bears or something, and they could get a new quarterback. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So that pretty much wraps things up. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Any like a flex person that you really like, or you got a question about, or anything like that this week?
I would say this week, well, one person, um, I threw him under the bus, um, and I'm sure you guys may talk about him later, or you know, just because they're going up against Dallas, so I won't say too much about him. But Christian Kirk, I'm hurting that receiver in one league, and I have trashed him, but he's starting to look a little bit better. Like he's carving out a little role
Right.
for himself. He had 7 targets, 5 catches, 78 yards. He scored a touchdown the week before. I think if he can put up the same stat line this week, I might consider playing him as a wide receiver 3 or in a flex where I have this deeper, just because I'm one of those people who's really hurting that receiver this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna I'll, I'll let you guys. 'Cause I know you guys will talk about that Dallas game because their defense. I'm not even gonna get started on it.
Right.
But he's just somebody I trashed him, but I may have to end up crawling back to him just given what's happened with one of my teams this year.
That's not a bad pickup, man. I'm not mad at that one, man. Against Dallas's defense, uh, I'm with you on that. I think he might be worth a shot. All right, man. Well, that wraps things up for part one of week 6 starts and sits. Make sure to tune in for part two, and make sure to like, subscribe, and make sure to follow us on social media at Fantasy Football MBAs. So until then, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace. You gonna say peace too? All right.